Have you ever wished you could just be a fly on the wall during one of the very first Christian gatherings? Well, that's kind of what we're going to do today. We're breaking down the oldest sermon ever found outside of the Bible. It was written in the mid-2nd century, and it gives us this raw, totally unfiltered look into what the first followers of Jesus actually believed. So, it all boils down to this one question, right? If you could actually listen in, what would you hear? What did they think was the absolute non-negotiable core of their faith? Well, this ancient sermon pretty much gives us the answer.
Okay, so the sermon does not pull any punches. It kicks off with this incredibly stark idea that before faith, humanity was just lost. We were blind, and our very existence was basically a form of death. It's a really dramatic starting point, and it sets the stage for an equally dramatic solution. And that leads us to the sermon's first huge theme, this idea of a radical transformation. And we're not just talking about being forgiven for a few mistakes. No, this is about being moved from a state of actual death into a completely new kind of life. It's a fundamental change to your very being.
This sermon lays this out as a super stark contrast. On one side, you've got humanity before, trapped in blindness, worshiping things people made, basically dead. But then on the other side, it's a complete 180, being given light, receiving sight, becoming children of God. It's this powerful, undeniable shift from darkness into light.
But it goes even deeper than that. The author argues that salvation is almost like a second creation. It's not just about fixing what's already there. It's about being brought from nothingness into what he calls a true existence. I mean, just imagine how profound and powerful that message must have sounded to those early listeners.
So, okay, knowing about this new life is one thing, but how are you supposed to actually live it out? This is where the sermon gets intensely practical. It argues that for this early community, true faith was something you do. It was an action.
And this line right here is a direct challenge to anyone who thinks just saying the right words is enough. The author makes it crystal clear. A verbal confession by itself is totally worthless. So, what does count then?
Well, according to this sermon, a real confession is one you can actually see. It's all about proving your faith through your actions by lining up your whole life with God's will. It's honoring Him with your deeds, not just your lips. It's an all-in kind of commitment.
And the author gives a very specific list of what this proof looks like in real life. These aren't just abstract ideas, they are concrete commands. Love people, be self-controlled, show compassion, be kind, and stay away from things like slander, envy, or greed. For this author, this is the hard evidence of where your allegiance really lies.
And you know, the stakes could not be any higher. This quote, which the sermon attributes to Jesus, is a really severe warning. It's basically saying you could be in the inner circle, but if your actions don't line up with your words, you'll be cast out. For these early Christians, obedience was literally a matter of eternal life and death.
All of this brings us to the central conflict of the sermon. The author paints this picture of two completely opposing worlds, two paths that are mutually exclusive, and every single person has to make a choice. There's just no middle ground.
He describes them as enemy worlds. You've got this world, which he sees as temporary, corruptible, a place that encourages sin and greed. And then, in complete opposition, you have the next world, which is eternal, incorruptible, and the source of true peace. The author is clear, they are fundamentally incompatible.
And this leads right to the sermon's big ultimatum. You can't be friends with both worlds. To get the next one, you have to abandon the temporary, corruptible things of this one. It's a stark, uncompromising choice that the listener is forced to make.
So why on earth would anyone make such a difficult choice? I mean, that sounds tough, right? Well, the final part of the sermon is all about the motivation, this incredible reward that's waiting for those who choose the right path.
I love this part because the sermon frames this whole struggle with a really powerful analogy. Life is like an athletic competition, a spiritual race. And just like in any race, you don't win by accident. Victory takes effort. It takes hard work and dedication. You really have to fight for it.
And this is the prize waiting at the finish line. It's not some temporary trophy that's going to rust or fade. The author calls it imperishable. It's eternal life, peace, and rest in a kingdom that's coming. That's the ultimate motivation that makes the whole struggle worth it.
So, this ancient sermon leaves us all with this really powerful personal question. The author saw life as this high-stakes race for an eternal, imperishable prize. And it kind of makes you stop and think, what race are you running, and what's the prize you're chasing?